Okay, so we teased at the beginning. Arch Manning in the last month committed to Texas over
Yeah.
Georgia and Alabama. Dante
Yeah.
Moore committed to Oregon over Notre Dame and some other schools. Notre Dame was kind of the name. And a couple months ago, we did a pod where we predicted Arch Manning would end up at Georgia, your school,
Mhm.
and Dante Moore would end up at Notre Dame, my school.
Yeah.
24/7 just updated their rankings today, and
Uh-huh.
according to their own rankings, not the composite yet, but according to their own, Arch Manning is the number one recruit in the country. Dante Moore is the number two recruit in the country. Um, so this hurts for both of us. We'll be honest. I'm assuming it hurts for you. It hurts for me. Talk it out. Tell me what happened. Tell me what they could have done differently. Where do you think Arch Manning and Georgia go from here?
Georgia has trouble. Georgia's in trouble right now. I think recruiting. I think there is real issues there. Um, it's not just missing out on Arch, but the fact that you missed on him to Texas, I think is I don't understand how a Manning goes to Texas with the turmoil that they've had there the last number of years. Texas is the model of inconsistency. Are they talented? Sure, but like what? I mean, you yourself read like when we did our predictions, you said how many players has Texas had drafted from these top 5 recruiting classes that they've had? Zero, like none. So like how do you get? Yeah, I don't understand it, man. I don't get it. Like, yeah, if it's between Georgia and Texas, I expected him fully to go to Georgia. Now, and I think I even said this at the time, I wouldn't necessarily be going to Georgia if I was a 5-star quarterback. I would probably be trying to go to, I don't know, Ohio State or Alabama or wherever else. I wouldn't be deciding between Georgia and Texas. But between Georgia and Texas, I fully expected Georgia to win that battle. They didn't, and it's like it's bothering me. Like it's not just Arch. We lost a 4-star running back to Alabama yesterday.
Justice Haynes.
Like Justice Haynes, his dad was the one that caught the hobnail boot pass famously against Tennessee, like back in the day. Like legacy, like the dude's dad played at Georgia, and Georgia was the favorite for forever. And then we find out like Georgia was actually behind not just Alabama, but also Ohio State. And like they finished third and like just stuff like that. It just feels weird. It feels off.
Caleb Downs recently got predicted to Alabama.
He's 100% in the crystal ball to Alabama. Caleb Downs, 100% in the crystal ball to Alabama. That should not be happening. I don't. Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the state of Georgia recruiting. Arch Manning, though, let's get back to Arch. Arch to Texas is huge for Texas. Yeah. I think that's going to steamroll a number of other recruits this class that he's going to bring his guys with him. He's going to bring in a batch of 5 stars with him or high 4s. So yeah, credit to that staff. Good for him, I guess. Like what happens, like him and Quinn Ewers still there. Like I've heard talk that he's going to redshirt. Like I've heard literally everything that, he's a 3-star. If his name wasn't Manning, he'd be a 3-star. To like, well, he's going to redshirt his first year, or well, Quinn Ewers is actually going to, he's going to be leaving after, just 1 year as a starter, and then Arch will immediately take over. You hear literally everything right now. You don't know really what's true or what's not, but if it's a miss, that's a miss for Georgia. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, I just as kind of the outside perspective. I'm not shocked. I did predict Georgia for him.
Yeah,
I think it would have been a good match just because of the winning and the defense and the offensive line and really everything. I also understand, I think, why he went to Texas. I think probably a lot of it has to do with trust in Sark to develop him as a quarterback. I think if the number one thing was I want to win a title, like he probably would have been Alabama or Georgia.
Right.
But I think most recruits today, this hurts me as a college football fan, but I think the number one reason players choose schools right now, one of many reasons, but the number one reason I believe is I want to make it to the NFL. I want to be developed so that I can go play in the NFL. And I feel a certain type of way about that because of the Texas brand. And like you said, Vince Young is the last offensive player from Texas to be drafted in the first round, Vince Young,
Mm-hmm.
in 2006.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is the Sark side. And Steve Sarkisian does have a good track record. We saw what he did with Mac Jones at Alabama. So I guess I understand it. Probably wouldn't have been my pick. But also, like, there's that video of him as a kid, like, saying, I want to go to Texas when he was like 12 years old. So maybe it came down to that too. Maybe it just became down to he's always been a Texas fan and that's where he wanted to go. I have no idea. And I don't know that we'll ever really know because it's Arch Manning. But I kind of like that he in a way it's kind of nice having that big time recruit that now has the one tweet, committing to Texas, and that's it. Like he has been so
Yeah.
completely not in the spotlight, but as far as him putting himself out there, it's more everyone else puts him in the spotlight. So I guess I respect that to a certain extent.
Yeah. No, I do too. I really do. I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm conflicted by it. I really am. It hurts to see, I guess. And yeah, it's a gut punch, really. I think Georgia had went all in on him. I really do. They don't really have a quarterback as a backup for this class. In a lot of ways, this class has kind of been shipped down the river a little bit I mean, that's kind of what happened. Like Georgia's not going to have a top class this year. And it's because of that. So yeah, concerns for Georgia, no doubt. That's concerning. It's concerning. You're missing out on not just him, but the other guys. But credit to the ones who are recruiting right now. Like people like Miami, A&M continuing to recruit at a high clip. USC. Yeah, even Alabama, Oklahoma has a 5-star quarterback.
Yep.
After losing Lincoln Riley, Jackson Arnold now got his 5th star. So like credit to those guys who are staying in it. Clemson seems to have rejuvenated themselves a little bit in the recruiting. We talked about how like we're concerned like about the state of Clemson football. They've rebounded. Clemson has absolutely rebounded and has a number of top commits, some from Georgia, which like when Clemson's great, they're going and getting some Georgia players. And they're doing that again. So yeah, it's really good for the parity. I will say that. Yeah, it is a bit of a gut punch as a Georgia fan to see that happen. Dante Moore, I know we're going to move on a little bit and talk about him. He had been rumored to literally everywhere. Notre Dame, LSU, I think A&M at one point even had him on a visit maybe.
Yeah.
But Oregon had been after him for a long time. Oregon really impressed on their official visit. And he commits to Dan Lanning. So Lanning and I just thought that's interesting. Lanning and Venables get 5-star quarterbacks in their first class.
Right.
Huge. Those are defensive guys that having no problems whatsoever going out and getting top quarterbacks. What's your thoughts as a Notre Dame fan?
Yeah, it's interesting hearing some of the once he made his decision, we started hearing some of the Notre Dame insiders like tell us what actually happened, like things they've known and just haven't been able to share for a long time. So he did this. I want to say it was in February or so. He silently committed to Notre Dame and said that he was going to go public in April. That was the plan, and then he decided he wanted to take visits. So Notre Dame actually stopped recruiting. You mentioned Jackson Arnold. They also stopped recruiting Chris Vizina, who the 5-star that's committed to Clemson.
Yeah.
They stopped recruiting a couple other 5-stars to focus on him. They believed that much in him, and they were that confident they were going to get him. Two main things I believe that sort of swung this around. The first one I believe was Nico Iamaleava when he got that $8 million bag.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe the first wrench thrown in there because that was like a week before he was planning on committing to Notre Dame. And by the way, they had the idea like commit on Sports Center like he ended up doing with Oregon then. That was actually a Notre Dame idea. But anyway,
nice.
That's going to sound like sour grapes. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant it at all. But so I think it was about a week before that Nico's $8 million deal comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And that immediately like, whoa, like that's different money. Like a year ago we heard, Bryce Young made $1 million.
Cool.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
8 million is a little different.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first thing. Well, maybe I want to check out Texas A&M, Oregon, like some of these schools that are really big on NIL.
Right.
And there's also some stories that maybe it's his dad, like his dad maybe is chasing the bag more than he himself is.
Gotcha.
Whatever. That's maybe a bit slanderous,
Hmm.
but that's the story out there. Um, and the second one was when Notre Dame finally was like, "Look, CJ Carr has wanted to commit to us for a while, the 5-star quarterback in the class of 24. And
Yep.
originally they asked him to hold off until Dante makes his decision.
Right.
Finally, they were like, it's time, like it's several months past the time when Dante was supposed to make his decision. We have another 5-star quarterback from the next class that wants to commit to us. And by the way, also wants to be involved in recruiting other people. We're going to go ahead and take him. So they did. And that was kind of like the last, like, oh, snap. Okay. Like that was like the last thing that almost like changed Dante completely away from Notre Dame. I think he was probably already trending away before that happened. That was almost like the last straw, I think, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting how programs respond to something like that happening. There's only a couple of guys that are still available, like
Yeah,
for lack of a better word. Like there was only a couple of guys, and those were probably the top two. Like those were the most coveted
absolutely.
recruits left in the class were probably Arch and Dante. And for those to get yeah, taking. I think it leaves the teams reeling, but I think Notre Dame has positioned themselves well to. I mean, yeah, I think they've done a better job than Georgia has as far as having a backup plan, and having a plan B. And I think maybe that's the difference between them. I think Georgia absolutely thought they were getting Arch. I don't think there was any and I think they knew they were getting Justice Haynes. Like those were
Yeah,
guys that they knew we absolutely know we're getting, and we don't have them now, and we have no answer. Like we have nothing. There's nothing else to offer. So, like in that way, credit to Notre Dame, and credit to the schools that got them. Credit to Oregon, credit to
yeah,
Texas. Um, they've done a good job. They're playing the game better than Georgia and Notre Dame are in the NIL era. I
yeah.
think Georgia and Notre Dame are both maybe in the same boat where they're not as bought in on NIL stuff as they should be. Like I think Georgia needs to be doing a better job with that. Georgia has unlimited resources. Notre Dame does too. And it doesn't feel like they're using it quite. It's not their lead off, right? It's not what they're leading with.
Yeah,
If it comes down, into the recruitment a little bit, like you want some, okay, yeah, we can figure some things out. But it's not like, hey, we're Tennessee, we're going to go spend $8 million. What can that
sure.
buy us? Like, cool. Like if you're A&M, they went and spent, what was it, 30 million? What did that? The greatest class of all time is what it bought you. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like they go shopping is what's happening, and maybe Oregon and Texas are doing that a little better than Georgia and Notre Dame are right
Yeah.
now.
And and if you're an Oregon fan or a Texas fan, like right now you're yelling at your computer that no, it was about relationships. Like listen,
Was
we're
it?
not trashing you because NIL was a factor. Like you're smart to actually make it a big deal and to go after these guys. I do think that Georgia, Alabama, maybe even Ohio State, I think kind of those three schools, like those are kind of the top tier recruiting wise the last
Mm-hmm.
X number of years.
Yeah.
And they have more to offer. They're like their pitch is still going to be we're going to put you in the NFL and we're going to compete for championships.
Yeah.
And in a way that might still be the way to go. You also need some NIL to go with it. and I think I still think that once we do see a Nico, for example, I'm not predicting this for him specifically. I'm using him as an example. If we see a Nico just absolutely crap the bed and be a complete bust, I do think maybe it evens out a little more. We did still see a Carnell Tate choose Ohio State because of their receiver development over Tennessee's bag. Like we're still going to see a lot of great, smart players with their heads on straight choosing the better developmental program. And again, like it sounds like I'm taking a shot at specific players. I'm not doing that at all. I think Dante Moore and Arch Manning are going to be great. I really listen. Like we missed out on Dante Moore. I wanted Dante Moore. I really think he has a chance to be a top 2 quarterback in this loaded class. He was probably the best guy at the Elite 11 this summer. Lit the place on fire, and I'm not going to pretend like we have a better plan. Like I love CJ Carr in 24. For the class of 23, Notre Dame is offering, Austin Novosad. Again, guys that are already committed elsewhere, like they're talking to Kenny Minchie, the Pitt commit. Like they could still get a good quarterback. They're not going to get a Dante Moore. Georgia could still rebound. They're not going to get an Arch Manning. They might get a Julian Sayin in the next class. Yeah. So that's what you have to do, though. Thankfully, as a Notre Dame fan, like they did get their 5-star for the next class. I think Georgia probably will too, but it's not actually in hand yet. So
and it's not Arch Manning. It's not Arch Manning. You can say what you want. You can say all those things. Arch Manning was the most coveted recruit in my lifetime. He was. And to have him and then, or you thought you had him and then you lost him, that stings.
Yeah.
And you're not going, Julian Sand can be, he's still a junior. He is a 5-star already, and he is 100% crystal ball to Georgia right now. Again, nothing's in hand, but
yeah,
like, even if he is there, it's not the same. It's not the same as trying to be bought in and like on some Arch Manning hype. But yeah, no, I agreed. The whole thing with the players, you can go down. I don't want you. It's you sound like a bad person anytime you get into this at all. But there's no way that Texas should be competing with Georgia and Alabama from a standpoint, not of talent or of facilities or definitely not money, but from prestige and development. Like the development has been so different. And yeah, to go for Arch to have, like, I firmly believe he has his head on straight. Arch going to Texas, yeah, I'm just struggling being there that we all missed on, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. And one other thing I want to talk about was you mentioned like these new coaches that got these 5-star quarterbacks. That's actually kind of a thing. Like if you look at the new coaches in college football, the ones we've been talking about all offseason, who has not gotten a 5-star quarterback yet? Because Lincoln Riley obviously has Malachi Nelson. Brian Kelly had one in the 2022 class that he kind of inherited. So I guess you can count that. Marcus Freeman has now gotten CJ Carr. Dan Lanning got Dante Moore. Brent Venables with Jackson Arnold. Mario Cristobal got Jaden Rashada. Probably the one is Billy Napier at Florida. And he got Marcus Stokes, who was like a mid 4-star, maybe a low 4-star. Flipped him from Penn State. I think he's a good quarterback. But I think maybe we've talked a little bit about the Miami versus Florida thing this offseason. And I think I was a little higher on Florida. You were a little higher on Miami. I'm coming around to your side a little bit. I'm coming around to your side. We were talking about how Florida was like in on all of these players, like so many players. And they've gotten a few, but they've also missed out on some of the big guys that they wanted and looked like they were going to get. Some of the corners, A.J. Harris goes to Georgia. Cormani McLean, is he committed yet? I can't remember. But like some of the big names.
Not yet.
They didn't get Jaden Rashada when they were trending for him. And there was the $9.5 million floated out there. It's probably not quite accurate, but you'd feel better about Florida if they would have gotten him instead of Miami.
Much better. I do suppose that the positive side to being a Georgia fan right now is you can still look at Florida. You still have them to sit there and laugh at a little bit. It's not all terrible. Agreed. Napier has struggled. If you look at like the guys that like pretty much what you mentioned, all these new coaches have went out and got a guy, and Napier's missed on just one after another. So yeah, I mean, they haven't coached a game yet. like there's still a disclaimer that, you know, if Florida comes out and plays well, we all forget. But yeah, definitely something to that. Feeling much better about my Miami
Yeah,
pick over Florida as kind of as a long term play, at least.
I would switch it today. I would join your side. Yes.